On a sunny Saturday morning, my whole family loaded into our Honda Odyssey and headed to my mother-in-law Evelyn's country house to celebrate her birthday. It was me, my wife Sarah, and our two wonderful kids, 7-year-old Emma and 4-year-old Jake. Sarah chattered the whole way about how excited she was to spend time with her mom and how long it had been since they had a family get-together like this. I, on the other hand, was mentally calculating how much I could drink without looking like a raging alcoholic in my mother-in-law's eyes. Evelyn's house was in a scenic location by Lake Tahoe, about a 3-hour drive from our home in San Francisco. When we finally arrived, Evelyn greeted us with open arms, hugging her beloved grandkids especially tightly. The festive bustle started immediately. The kids ran around the house, exploring every corner. Sarah helped her mother in the kitchen, and I, as an exemplary son-in-law, started firing up the grill in the backyard. The day was going great. The barbecue was sizzling. The fresh air was as intoxicating as the beer I'd been sipping all day, and the laughter and easy conversation never stopped. Evelyn, despite her age, she just turned 55, looked amazing. I've always wondered how she manages to stay in such great shape. I guess a healthy lifestyle and yoga work wonders. Although sometimes it seemed to me that she looked even better than her daughter. But I quickly pushed such thoughts away before Sarah learned to read them on my face. In the evening, when the kids were completely exhausted from running around and the hearty dinner, Sarah went to put them to bed. Evelyn and I stayed on the porch, sipping whiskey and enjoying the evening chill. The conversation was becoming more and more casual, and I don't know if it was because of the alcohol or the relaxed atmosphere, but it seemed to me that Evelyn was starting to look at me in a special way. However, I attributed it to my imagination and continued to enjoy our conversation and the excellent whiskey. After a while, I got worried about why Sarah was taking so long. Excusing myself to Evelyn, I went to check if everything was okay. Entering the kids' room, I saw a heartwarming picture. Sarah was asleep on the bed, hugging Emma and Jake. Apparently, the fairy tale she was reading to them had lulled not only the children, but her as well. I gently kissed my wife on the cheek, carefully covered them with a blanket, and quietly left, deciding not to wake my loved ones. Returning to the porch, I found that Evelyn had already managed to refresh our glasses of whiskey. "You work fast," I winked at her, to which she responded only with an enigmatic smile. We continued our conversation and didn't notice how the bottle emptied and the clock hands moved well past midnight. The whiskey pleasantly burned my throat, and the cool night air invigorated me, not letting me get completely drunk. Evelyn and I sat on the porch, illuminated only by the dim light of a single lantern, chatting about everything under the sun, about work, family, past, and future. It's amazing how alcohol loosens tongues and allows you to talk about topics that seem too personal or uncomfortable when sober. Evelyn talked about her youth, the crazy things she did in college, her dreams and disappointments. I listened, occasionally inserting funny comments, and was amazed at how much I didn't know about her. A completely new Evelyn was opening up to me, not the strict and domineering one she usually appeared to be to her son-in-law, but a lively, passionate one, with a spark of adventurism in her eyes. "You know, I once dreamed of becoming an actress," she confessed, taking another sip of whiskey. "I imagined myself on a Broadway stage or on the red carpet in Hollywood. But then I met Sarah's father, fell in love, had a daughter, and somehow all my dreams of the stage faded into the background." There was a slight sadness in her voice, but no regret. I suddenly caught myself unable to take my eyes off her face, the play of light and shadow on it. The conversation gradually became more personal, and the jokes more ambiguous. Evelyn would seemingly accidentally brush my hand when reaching for the bottle, and her compliments grew more and more frank. "Sarah is so lucky to have you," she purred, looking at me from under half-lowered lashes. "Not everyone is so fortunate with their husbands." I felt goosebumps run down my spine, and it definitely wasn't from the cold. Alcohol and the atmosphere were doing their job. The boundaries of propriety were blurring, my tongue was getting tangled, and completely inappropriate thoughts were swarming in my head. Evelyn, too, seemed to feel this tension hanging between us. Her gazes became more intense, her movements more smooth and seductive. Or was it just my imagination? "I think we'd better call it a night," I finally said, struggling to move my tongue. Otherwise, tomorrow morning my head will be pounding like after a sysadmin conference." Evelyn laughed, throwing her head back, and that laugh seemed to me the most captivating sound in the world. "You're right, son-in-law," she agreed, rising from her chair and swaying slightly. "Will you escort the lady to her bedroom? Just in case, some treacherous stairs attack me on the way." Without waiting for an answer, she took my arm and pulled me into the house. It would have been the height of impropriety to refuse a lady, and I didn't want to refuse, not after all that had been drunk and heard. We climbed the stairs, and the whole house seemed somewhat unreal, like a movie set. Evelyn held tightly to my elbow, either actually afraid of stumbling or just wanting to be closer. She exuded a subtle scent of perfume, mixed with the smell of whiskey and night freshness. My head was spinning slightly, but I attributed it to the alcohol and fatigue. Finally, we reached Evelyn's bedroom. I gallantly opened the door for her, intending to say goodbye and go to my own room. "Won't you come in for a minute?" she suddenly asked, looking up at me. "I wanted to show you something." I hesitated. All my instincts were screaming that I should politely decline and leave, but curiosity and the whiskey I had drunk did their job. "Sure, show me." I nodded and stepped inside. Evelyn closed the door, and without turning on the light, walked over to the dresser. I remained standing in the middle of the room, feeling slightly awkward. She pulled out one of the drawers and began rummaging through it as if looking for something. "Here it is," she cooed, and turning around, showed me a piece of fabric. It took me a couple of seconds to realize that it was lacy lingerie. Very revealing lacy lingerie. "I bought it a couple of weeks ago," Evelyn continued, slowly approaching me. "What do you think? Will it suit me?" She stopped a couple of inches away from me, so close that I could feel the heat of her body. My brain was desperately searching for a suitable answer, but all coherent thoughts seemed to have evaporated. Yes, it will." "I guess," I stammered, and immediately cursed myself mentally for this idiotic response. Evelyn smiled, and there was nothing motherly or innocent about that smile. She placed her hand on my chest and, rising on tiptoe, whispered right into my ear, "Maybe you'll help me try it on." Her breath scorched my skin, sending electric impulses throughout my body. I should have stopped this madness, should have left right now. But instead I found my arms already wrapping around her waist, and my lips finding hers. What happened next, I remember in snippets, like clips from a movie. Feverish kisses, the rustle of clothing falling to the floor, the heat of bare skin. We fell onto the bed, intertwining our bodies, unable to get enough of each other. The whole world ceased to exist. There were only our moans and whispers, the creaking of the bed and the moonlight streaming through the uncurtained window. It was insanity, an unforgivable mistake, a betrayal of everything I loved and valued. But at that moment, none of these thoughts stayed in my head, clouded by passion and alcohol. There was only a fierce, primal hunger that demanded to be satisfied. And we satisfied it again and again until we collapsed, exhausted, intertwined, sweaty, and spent. The last thing I remember before falling asleep is Evelyn's eyes glittering in the darkness, with reflections of madness and triumph dancing in them. "This will be our little secret," she whispered, and I think I nodded in response. And then the world went dark, and I passed out, not even having time to feel a pang of conscience or fear. These feelings would come later with the first rays of dawn. Waking up was horrible. And it wasn't even about the hangover, although my head was pounding mercilessly and my mouth tasted like cats had crapped in it. No, the scariest part was the realization slowly seeping through the haze of sleep into my miserable brain. The realization of what I had done last night. I lay there, afraid to move or open my eyes. Maybe it was all a bad dream. Maybe nothing happened, and I just had too much whiskey and passed out in the guest bedroom. But no, the sensations were too real. The stinging hickeys on my neck, the scratches on my back, someone else's breathing next to me. Damn it, I really did sleep with my own mother-in-law. Very slowly, trying not to wake Evelyn, I slipped out of bed. Naked with a splitting headache, I started frantically searching for my clothes scattered all over the room. Underwear on the chandelier, socks under the dresser, pants on the chair. How did we even have the patience to undress and not just rip everything to shreds in a fit of passion? Having dressed somehow, I tiptoed to the door, praying to all the gods I knew that it wouldn't creak. But apparently, the gods were too busy watching my disgrace, and the door made an unpleasant screech. I froze, afraid to breathe. Evelyn stirred behind my back, muttered something, but fortunately didn't wake up. I slipped into the hallway and silently closed the door behind me. Sneaking into the guest bedroom, where Sarah and the kids were peacefully snoring, I collapsed on the bed, feeling my heart pounding somewhere in my throat. Thoughts were racing in my head like frightened cockroaches. What to do now? How to look my wife, my children, myself in the mirror in the eye? How to behave with Evelyn? God, what if she tells Sarah everything? My life will be over. I imagined my wife's face when she finds out about my betrayal. Pain, disbelief, anger. She'll definitely take the kids and leave, and I'll be left alone, branded as an unfaithful husband and a perverted son-in-law. These thoughts made me feel so crappy that I wanted to howl out loud. But I just buried my face in the pillow, silently cursing myself and my weakness. And the worst part was that I couldn't even blame it all on the alcohol. Yes, whiskey definitely played its role, dulling my moral principles and common sense. But to be honest with myself, and what's the point of hiding it now, I had been attracted to Evelyn for a long time. I just had enough strength and conscience before to keep it in check, not allowing myself to even think in that direction. But yesterday everything coincided. The atmosphere, the moment, her explicit hints, and my alcohol-relaxed mind. And I snapped. No, of course, it was a fun experience. After all, it's not every day you sleep with your own mother-in-law, and such a hot one at that. Evelyn, at 55, could give many 30-year-olds a run for their money, that's a fact. And in bed, she's just fire. Okay, stop. What am I even thinking about? I don't need to analyze my mother-in-law's bedroom skills right now. I need to figure out how to get out of the situation with minimal losses. All right, let's get a grip. The main thing now is to keep what happened a secret at any cost. I can't let Sarah suspect anything. And for that, I need to act as if nothing has changed, as if nothing has happened. Easy to say, hard to do, especially considering that my conscience is already starting to gnaw at me with double force. But there's no choice. Too much is at stake. It's settled. Today I'll pretend I don't remember anything. Like I had too much to drink last night, passed out, and woke up here in the morning. And I'll talk to Evelyn later, in private, without witnesses. I'll ask her to forget about everything, chalk it up to a temporary lapse, and never mention it again. She's a mature, reasonable woman, she should understand. She should sympathize with my situation. Having calmed myself a bit with this plan, I tried to get a couple more hours of sleep. After all, I had a long day ahead of me, full of pretense and acting for the public. I'll need all my strength to get through it with dignity, and preferably without giving myself away with some awkward phrase or a telling glance in Evelyn's direction. But in general, if we abstract from the circumstances, the night was really something else. I won't repeat it, of course, it's not worth it. But the memories will definitely brighten up more than one of my evenings. Okay, my mind is wandering in the wrong direction again. It's time to sleep. I'll fall asleep now, and hope that in the morning it turns out that I dreamed it all. Although who am I kidding? I'm in deep shit, and it's not a dream, unfortunately. But we'll get through it. What choice do we have? Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.